Hey guys, welcome back to the Venus Report. I'm Kate,
Come back. I'm Liz.
and today we are recording after the pretty intense Capricorn full moon that we had this past week. And we're talking today about the MC and IC axis, which is also called the midheaven and the ilium coli, or the top of the sky and the bottom of the sky.
Yes. This episode will be hopefully a more quicker one. And what do you recommend? You recommend maybe having people's birth charts up if they can. If not, maybe just think about where your MC is. I know that some people don't even know, but if you get the chance to
Yeah,
look at it after this conversation, it might be helpful.
yes, I would recommend having your birth chart pulled up on astro.com. And we look at Placidus in our birth charts, so that's how we interpret it. That's the system we use. There's also whole signs and equal signs, which we can get into in a little bit. But pull up your birth chart, and or if you know already where your MC and IC are in your chart, or which sign rules them, we're going to talk about how that represents in career and how that represents in who you are out in the world and the work that you may do out in the world. First, I wanted to ask Liz what you think excites you about the MCIC axis, and what have you seen like come to fruition in your own life when you interpret it?
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so what excites me about this area is kind of the symbolism of the most outer point of who you are, that summer solstice moment of like who you are kind of. And it's the most outward, it's the most communicative with external life. It is the most identifying as in terms of like legacy and things like that. So I've definitely always been more intrigued by the MC in terms of that. I'm also like a summer solstice kind of baby, so that's probably also a thing. But in terms of the IC, I'm a little bit less like I. It's always just an area where I own not a blind spot, but it seems like an area that I'm not so familiar with. Feels very inward. That's all I really can feel from it, like intuitively. But I want to know more about symbolism and kind of like what it identifies for people who, you know what I mean, who don't have any idea what the IC could indicate. So, but yeah, that's probably what excites me the most.
Mm. Yeah, so the IC, I love the MCIC axis because I look at it at different points in my life and I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense in such a new way. When I'm
Yeah.
thinking about like when I'm curious and I'm unclear about where I want my career to be going and what I should be doing in the world and kind of like what my work should look like, whether I want it to be more like aesthetically focused or more like teaching focused. In the past, I was really concerned like, should I just be doing like interior design or something? Because I have a Libra MC and it's all about like
Mm.
aesthetic, and my MC is ruled by Venus, which I realized is more of just like a connection with others, and relationships is really are really important to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and aesthetic as well, but like um, creating relationships within a space that feels aesthetically aligned and connected is like super, super 10th house career abundance for me. So I
Yeah.
feel that the ICMC can be a portal to your abundance as a human, because the IC has to do with mental health. The IC has to do with how you nourish yourself at the most root level. If you think of the ICMC axis, and when I say axis, it's just like that polarity across the birth chart. It's always the IC is always the root at the bottom of the chart. So think of the IC as the roots uh, that are spreading into the earth, and it creates a foundation of connection and stability for you, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, on all levels. So your IC is like where you ground in. How you ground in is your sign. If there's any planets there, that creates like the quality in which you ground in. So say you have, for example, Liz, you have an Aquarius IC. Say,
Mm-hmm.
just for example, you had like Neptune on your IC, which is basically like in your fourth house. And I know you don't, but just for an
Mm-hmm.
example, um, the way that you create a rootedness in your own self image and your own self concept is through being so unique in yourself. Like Aquarian, holding the water of yourself, of like that uniqueness, connecting
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, because if Neptune is there, that's like the how and the flavor in which you do that is like connecting to your own spiritual practice, whether it's like lighting a candle, pulling tarot, reading astrology, like whatever that may be, studying spell
Wow.
work, like that is so you. And I see that in you. You're Aquarius, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, so that's the root. And we're going to go through all the signs. So stay tuned. We're going to go through all the signs and how those look on the MCIC. So if Liz has an Aquarius IC, look the opposite of that. She has a Leo midheaven. So the top of the sky is Leo when she was born. And it is said in kind of like Vedic astrology and Buddhist interpretations of astrology that the moment you were born, your soul, right, chose to come into the world at that point. And that point, when you like entered into this world, the top of the sky is like the bullet point or like the target point of your life, of this incarnation. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So like you're appearing on the scene when Leo was at the top of the sky, at the target point of like the wheel of your life, of your dharma, of
Mm-hmm.
your karma. And in this life, like the most exalted version of you is like integrated in Leo energy. And then expressing that onto the world in this very modern way of like business, and that we talk about business all the time, but like creating your own business that is self-expressive, because the
Mm-hmm.
Leo Aquarius axis is so expressive. It's all about expression, right?
Yeah.
So being
Yeah.
bold in your career moves, but like it's not that like, when you think of Leo on the MC, you're like, oh, actress, like, or actor. Like that's like the classic interpretation, right? Because Leo is like loves to be on stage and is so bold. But that's not what I would how I would interpret it. It's like more nuanced, as in like the way in which you build your career is allowing you to like keep doing the inner work of like showing up boldly and confidently, um, with
Mm.
like reliability, right? Because Leo is like very
Oh, wow.
trusting, um,
Yeah.
and like that celebrity style of freedom needs to be embodied in your career, but not in a celebrity way. Like it maybe not. Um,
Yeah. There's
Confidence.
something, yeah. Okay. So I didn't really explain kind of what I've seen show up for me in terms of like Leo energy there. But I've noticed that, like, when you think about an actor or an actress, the best way that they showcase what they do is when they have like their heart in it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's it's always, it comes down like the best actors are like the ones who have their heart in it. You know what I mean? Like you can't tell the difference of them being a person outside of what they're playing or a person in what they're doing, like currently in the movie or the film or whatever. So I noticed that like when it comes to my career, my heart like has to be in it. Like I physically can't do something where like it feels like not like like I feel like I'm faking it if I'm in something that is not like totally and utterly who I am. And it was hard at the beginning because when you come out of college it's kind of like, okay, we'll get a job, and it's like it's not an easy thing to like follow your heart, you know what I mean? But like I feel like someone like me, that's like a definitive element and like personality trait that I've noticed in myself, that like I just was never willing to not do something that was aligned. What am I saying? I was never gonna do something that was not aligned with my heart. Do you know what I mean? Like I just knew that in myself. So the path was a little
Hmm.
harder for me, but like I did it for so long that now I'm eventually at a point where it's like natural, you know?
Hmm.
So I found that
Yeah.
really interesting.
That's like your work. That's like your
Mm-hmm.
dharma and what your soul is like continuing to choose, because you're
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel in alignment. I need to be connected on a heart level to my work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's great. So, okay, let's go through the signs. So, if you have your birth chart up, if you're and you're listening to this, we're going to do Aries. So, if you have Aries on the MC, you have got Libra on. Hold on, let me just pull up. You've got Libra on your IC. So, Aries MC, this one is like super initiatory. There could be an energy of like, let's see, like domineering or conflict or debate in your career sphere, in how
Mm.
you present yourself in the world and how you show up in the public eye. Could be very much like that of debating and feeling like, let's say, like feeling almost held back in a way. But this energy is so powerful if you've got Aries there, that you have this like initiatory spark and this vitality to move forward and overcome a lot of obstacles. So there might be obstacles when it comes to your public image, your career, whatever that may be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you've got
Yes.
Libra. Like Libra on the IC is very much like this airy, Venusian, balancing energy of harmony. So when that's on
Mm.
your IC, that your inner world, your fourth house of home, how you nourish yourself at home, and it, like when you're alone, even as a child, um, balance and harmony with nature, balance and harmony with other people around you, your relationships, is so, so vital for you to like have the strength to overcome those obstacles of Aries.
Mm-hmm. And I was gonna say, justice. I feel with an Aries midheaven, and a Libra IC, like it's all relative, but like justice, something about what's right and like even like standing for what you believe in kind of thing. Like maybe your career is more like a place of nonprofit, you're really interested in place in things that like are for a cause, like that like warrior energy I feel like could come out in that way in a career. And yeah, I just think I'm seeing it now. Like I told you how like an I like the IC always was kind of more confusing to me. But when you talked about like the roots and like how it's just kind of rooted, and then like your MC is like the most seen aspect of it, it makes sense that like it's really a play on the axes is what we're talking about, and Libra being there is very much like the support system for that like heavy warrior, you know what I mean? It's like the relationships you
Mm,
build, it's the things you find balance in, it's like that health, like the Venus, the like, do you know what I mean? So yeah,
yeah,
that really makes
yeah.
sense to
I
me.
think, right, like the tree metaphor is so powerful with the MCIC, because it's the tree of your birth chart. It's like the top of the tree, the leaves, the buds, the branches is your public image and what you create in this world. It's your art.
Mm-hmm.
So, one more thing about the Aries, MC, and Libra, I see people is, again, relationships are fundamental for you, fundamental
Mm.
for your growth, for your expression, and healthy, harmonizing relationships, not just intimate, but others as well.
Mm.
Um, okay, so next one. If you've got a Taurus MC, you have a Scorpio IC. So Taurus, Midheaven, Scorpio. Um, I like to call IC like the bottom of the sky, but it's just too long of a phrase. Um, So I know a couple Taurus midheaven people, and what I see that's very common with Taurus midheavens, um, for example, it's very much like an outward aesthetic and beauty that is shown by these people. Marilyn Monroe had a
Oh my
Taurus
God.
midheaven, yeah, and a Scorpio IC. So when Taurus is at the top of your chart, you're really looking in this life for this energy of stability, but not like a Capricorn stability. It's more of like I want to feel sensually comfortable in my environment that I'm walking around in, right?
Mm,
And I want to feel like I can express I like have this sphere of influence, and within that sphere, whether how if it's really big, if it's medium, if it's small, like I want to be able to feel my way around that sphere with comfortability and like full expression. It's very
mm-hmm.
like physical, right? Creating spaces like one of my friends
Yeah.
has like this beautiful shop, and it's very like aesthetically pleasing, and that's the space she moves around in with her career, like, right? So
Mm,
when you look at the bottom of the chart or the root of that, what do you need on like a subconscious or like home base foundational level for that outer sphere to be so comfortable? You really need like this energy of Scorpio on the IC, which is like transformational soil, like tilling the soil of compost energy, where you're like seeing who you are, who you can be, and you're like almost I think of it as like transforming behind the scenes and
mm-hmm.
within your relationships. At home, you're almost like doing the work. That's what I feel like these people do, is like even if you know it on a conscious level or you don't, you're like at home doing some sort of self-actualization work of like uncovering your shadow and like looking at it in the face and then saying, okay, this is how I want to present out in the world. And it kind of like the Taurus almost like acts like a balm for all that deep work that you're doing.
Oh my God. Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
hmm
And I was just gonna say the metaphor that I always see with Taurus and Scorpio is like the perfect representation of what it is the rose. Well, not the rose, but like a flower and the roots. And like it is exactly that. It's like, but what you said about the transforming and like having these like deep, kind of like deep revelations, like behind closed doors, but then being very outwardly like sensual and like, wow. I don't know why. Like the Marilyn Monroe thing, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
mm, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Taurus is fertility and its strength and its stability. And for those things to be outwardly focused, that's like that's like a big it's almost like a feat. It's like this is your work in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
behind closed doors, you're like doing that work of facing your deepest shadows and like seeing who you are, who you're meant to be, those like thoughts that you really that don't serve you. And then you're coming out into the world, and like what's the antidote to all that Scorpio energy is the Taurian like expression of, okay, this is like simple, this is beautiful, this is
Mm-hmm.
aesthetic, and my senses are pleased out in the world,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense.
hmm Okay. So hopefully, well, when you all are listening to this, you can kind of interpret it in your own way of like, okay, right, there's no, I'm not giving specific examples of careers, but this is the energy that you're bringing into your career. So you can like fit this energy into certain careers.
Mm-hmm.
Certain careers are not good for Taurus MCs. Like if you're like a politician, that feels gross for a Taurus MC because like you're around like really stuffy environments, right?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
that doesn't feel great. but at the same time, maybe you could fit it in a certain way. It depends on your whole birth chart. But that being said, so next one, Gemini. Let's move to Gemini MC. So if you've got a Gemini midheaven, you have got a Sagittarius IC. And the Gemini Sag axis. So this is a powerful one. It's really about, Gemini is about ideas, movement, Mercury, how you think. Sag is like the truth and like seeking like truer than true truths for you, like spiritual truths. So if you've got that Gemini on your MC, there's this energy of like innovative ideas, of intelligently putting yourself out there. If you're a writer, if you're a publisher, if you have books, podcasts, like that's very Gemini MC. And you can really thrive in putting your words out in the world, expressing yourself with words and thought. Because, right, the roots of your tree, of your world, in your childhood may have been like deeply philosophical, right? Sag. And having Sag at the bottom of your chart is like your home, your relationships, your solitude is based upon like reading philosophy or understanding new ideas, new ways of thinking, and embedding those like deep study. I feel is like the Gemini midheaven person is like the deep study
And
will
finding truth.
will result in like you creating new ideas, innovations, and very intelligently going about the world, publishing, writing, speaking, singing, even like musician. Like it can be in so many different ways, but that feels really potent. What do you
Yeah.
think?
I find I'm like thinking about Jupiter's influence here, and also the fact that these are mutable. And I've always found with Mercury, or just with like Mercury and Jupiter in general, like there's just a lot to be. It's almost like this like steadfast, communicative, like kind of feeling like they're barely ever scratching the surface. Like I just sense like a high energy here where it's like there's so much to learn, there's so much to find out the truth about, which is Jupiter. And like Mercury is just going crazy on the surface, like finding out what all these things are and like digging really deep. Like I'm seeing this as like I can see this as like even a journalist, like a media journalist, like a reporter, writer, obviously, and like even just like director, like because it's like you're like still finding ways to express what this truth is that you're finding out, and like Gemini is very much like the media and like news and businesses and things like that. So it's like a culmination of everything. But like it's
Yeah.
almost like overstimulating information. So I just feel like that high energy of like finding the truth here with that.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Gemini Sag, information and truth. So powerful. Okay. So Cancer midheaven and Capricorn IC. The Cancer Capricorn axis is the 10th fourth house axis, but this one is flipped because Cancer rules the fourth house, but we're really talking about Cancer being on the 10th house. 10th house is ruled by Capricorn, but we're really talking about Capricorn being on the fourth house right now. So this energy is like there's a mutual reception with this energy. That means it's just very natural, very cosmically aligned to have a Cancer midheaven, I feel. So Mahatma Gandhi had a Cancer midheaven.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and he was obviously very influential spiritually and politically, and cared very deeply about humans and our race. And yeah, and it just he was almost like he was so fearless in his work and his representation of his belief system, and that it got him assassinated, which is wild. But
Mm,
I'm not saying that people want this,
yeah,
just saying like that's how
that's
powerful
crazy.
this energy can be. So I feel that when you have a Cancer midheaven, you honor and respect protection over a lot of other things. And in the way that you put yourself out in the world, your art, your work, has like a sense of rigidity to it because Cancer is because it's the crab and it has this like outer shell of like, okay, there's this protection needed. And I think because while Cancer is opposite of its home in the 10th house, that shell is exalted and that shell comes out even more because it's out in the
Mm-hmm.
world. Like I feel like that crab energy or archetype is highlighted when Cancer is on the MC. So there's this like protection energy, and
Mm-hmm.
it can be like this fierce mother or father energy in your work. So, say if you're like a caretaker, that can be like a very obvious interpretation, like a hospital worker, a nurse, a caretaker. But even more so, you could be like a political leader who deeply, deeply cares about humans, animals, right? Whatever group of people it is. And
Mm-hmm.
on the back end, at your home, in your inner world, there's this sense of like um, Capricorn energy, which is like knowing who you are on so many levels, exploring the depths of your waters, but also like climbing to new heights is very
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn, and like building and stability and structure. And Capricorn rules your skeleton, like your bones. So there's this sense of like, I know in my bones that I am meant to care for the world and create systems and structures because I know how to create systems and structures because I do this in my home and in my own psyche and in my world, right?
Mm-hmm.
My own
Yeah.
alone time. And I'm going to use that gift out in the world to create structures of like care and
Mm-hmm.
nourishment. And it can be feminine in nature, um, whether it be art or something more like passive and feminine, or it can be the opposite of that, which is like, you're a politician or something.
Mm-hmm. And it's just like what you said about like the nurturing thing. I'm like, the word that comes to me or the phrase with a Cancer MC is like nurturing life. Like you're just nurturing life, whatever forms that is, and you are mentally building like the foundations and security and like Capricorn energy to in order to do that thing. I feel like it's a place where like it's another place very similar to Aries where it's like you are standing for something because I'm
Mm.
also seeing this relation with these cardinal signs on the MC and how they're like kind of leaders. Like it's like not leaders, but like they want to be a part of something that is leading the way
Mm-hmm.
for like a cause or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
I would also say if you have a Cancer midheaven, look at your moon, look to your moon to see like what flavor your career can look like, whatever sign your moon's
Mm-hmm.
in.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Leo midheaven. Leo midheaven. We actually already talked about this one. We already
Yeah.
talked about it with you. That was the first one we did. So we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna skip that and we'll go to Virgo. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So Virgo midheaven and Pisces IC. So the Virgo Pisces axis. I feel like with this one, when you have Virgo on your midheaven, there's like a sense of like reality and practicality and realness. of what needs to be done on the ground or in the world to create the connection and the oneness that Pisces is craving, or that Pisces knows innately. That
Mm.
we're like say, like we know, these people know that like we are all one. There's this sense of the deepest connection to spirit and to matter, and the fact that like we're all made up of vibrations and vibrating particles. That's very Pisces. So when you have this on your IC, there's like this knowing of that, and there's maybe um, if you're kind of underdeveloped in this area of your chart, there could be like this intense emotionality, this intense emotions for this person.
Mm-hmm.
And then out in the world, there's this need to be super structured and this need to like be practical about what you do to make things feel organized, because there's
Mm-hmm.
such emotional intensity underneath, and at the on in the home, and how you experience the world is like so deep,
Mm.
and you feel like you're connected to everything, and therefore the Virgo MC really wants to like organize and be practical, and like making things easeful for the body is very Virgo, like purifying any toxic or heavy or dense like structures or way of being. Virgo is like wanting to purify that with how it presents itself out in the world. So this could be in like any sort of career. Like say you're like a restaurant manager and you're like, okay, you want to make things easy, practical, and like lists and just organized, but not like heavy and dense,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yeah, say if you're like an artist, you're a, you're a content creator. There's this sense of like organizing information to ease the Piscean depths of like how deep we can all
Mm.
get. Um,
Yeah.
this one's big, yeah.
And I had this thought just now about how Venus in Virgo is at its fall or detriment. I can't remember. It's one or the other, and they're different. And it's exalted in Pisces. So, like, Venus in these areas are very, like, I don't know why I thought of that, but I think when you were saying, like, the cleanliness, because that is a Venus thing, is to be, like, just clean and, like, aesthetically pleasing and things like that. So it's like in these areas of your life, it's almost like, do you captivate that energy in, I'm probably going on a tangent here, but I just thought that it was really interesting how Venus in these places kind of are like either really hyper or really like the opposite. So it's almost like I wonder, I'm curious to people who have Virgo MC and Pisces IC if you're in like a creative field, or like if you have these like, because maybe it's like you have, you're creative, but that's like your inner world being like activated. But then maybe when you're in the outer world, you tend to like want certain organization that like maybe, I don't know, something along those lines. I'm like catching up on, or
Mm-hmm.
like tapping
Yeah.
into.
I feel like I'm tapping into that too, is like there's this needing the organization to feel at ease from from the depths of this of the Piscean experience,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? And
Yeah.
but that creates such a motivation, like you're rooted in like the connection to spirit and the oneness that is like all universal law, and that
Mm-hmm.
depth of like, oh, just like empathy and like
Knowing that.
feeling is
Yeah.
just knowing that is like your root. And then out in the world, how you like express and organize that energy is such a beautiful process,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like you're collecting all this wisdom and placing it into certain categories, or that organizational practical energy can be presented so beautifully with Virgo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that can be a lot of
Very
things.
interesting. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay, so Libra MC and Aries. I see. So I talked about this a little bit. I have a Libra MC. Um, from my experience and just my interpretation in general, that's not biased from my experience, is I would say that Libra MC people, there's this need for outer relationships to be like a pivot point or like a touchstone of your career. And there's like this, I'm picturing like the scales and the axle, is that what it's called? Like the axle in the middle of the scale that like balances it out like a balance, like a seesaw. There's that pivot point or axle from where things move up and down, and where the balancing occurs is like right on the fulcrum of that middle point. And when you have a Libra MC, like your fulcrum is you, and the balancing is like balancing your inner and outer worlds. And when your outer world is balanced, you feel like the fire and the intense like ideas and initiations that come from your subconscious or from the time that you spend alone, like
From Aries
reading.
being right
Yeah,
below you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aries is like lighting the fire of your lineage. Also, like anything when I'm talking about the IC, I'm also talking about your lineage. So your cellular epigenetics, where you come from, right? So that's also a big piece. Is IC is like where you're coming from. If you think of like you're like flying through a portal, if you think of like when you're being born at this moment where you're spinning on a planet in the fucking vast galaxy, and your soul decides to like pop in at this moment, and it's coming from, there's a force behind you, and that force is your IC and also your South Node. So we can talk about that another time. But like the
Mm-hmm.
IC is like your lineage and the patterns that come with that, right? And the energy that's like behind you, where like Liz, you've got an Aquarian, that Aquarian like wisdom of like humanitarianism, and like something there is like part of the lineage experience. And when you've
Mm.
got an Aries IC, there's this like there's this fire and this like intensity and this courage um, that is happening in your home, maybe as you were growing up, your lineage, and it's trickling into as you become an adult. It's like the way that you nourish yourself. It's like heightened activity, and um, I know for me, it's like intensity and like moving my body actively. Aries, right? And then this Libra is like, what's good for the world, and how can I present my work in a way that brings everyone back to the middle point, like the harmonizing middle center, the middle path. Seeing both sides is a really big thing that I see in my chart. I also have like Jupiter at the top of my chart. So if you have planets
Mm.
near your MC, those are very activated. Those are, you're going to get way more influence, and you might be way more outer focus if you've got planets at the top of your chart. If you have no planets at the top of your chart, this interpretation may not mean much to you, but the IC may mean way more to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, just one more thing about Libra. Midheaven is like also, it's Venus ruled, and it's also beauty and like creating beautiful spaces for um, for balance and harmony and just like true healing. It feels very healing.
Yeah.
Um, and the me and we, right? Aries is like the me,
Mm-hmm.
and Libra is the we, and how can we exist in harmony together, creating spaces of that nature, leading by example. Aries and Libra is very like, it highlights the person, the people involved. So like
Mm-hmm.
leading in your career by example and being the way that you want to be, I guess.
Yeah. I love that interpretation.
Yeah, it's a good one. Um, Yeah, I also feel like obviously judicious and optimism is like a big Libra I see. Um,
Mm,
Princess Diana had a Libra MC,
mm.
so that's just something else to think about.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Yeah.
yep.
Very, very similar aesthetic to Marilyn Monroe with the other Venus ruled MC.
Yeah. Yep. So interesting.
How they show in the world. One
Hmm.
small thing I'll say about and planets near or on your MC. Um, it's this also kind of applies to your ascendant too. If you have planets in these two areas, people say that it's like a really big indicator for fame or being known for something in this life.
Mm.
Obviously dependent upon the planet. But yeah, like the fact that you have Jupiter, I always forget about that, that you have Jupiter on your MC.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's like if you have your moon on the MC, like I actually know that David Lynch, the director, has that. And I
Mm.
don't know what sign it was, but he's he's so well known for creating these worlds. Like he's a director and he creates these whole entire worlds that are very, very like like just moon themes, like deep emotion and like all things like that. So it's just a really interesting, cool thing about this area of the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into the last like section of the zodiac. So Scorpio MC, Scorpio Midheaven, and Taurus IC. So Scorpio is intense. Intensity and transformation is a big theme. If you have this as an MC, it's like this water sign of transformation and ruled by Pluto and Mars. So there's this like tendency and innate capacity for depth and for connection with others, but like the depth as in like just facing whatever is head on, and this energy of like, okay, I'm not gonna like, I don't need to sugarcoat anything, and
Mm-hmm.
I would like to get to the root of this issue. Again, like Scorpio Taurus is very like root and flower. Scorpio
Mm-hmm.
is what happens underneath the surface. The Taurus is like the blossoming. So
Mm-hmm.
in your world, if you've got a Scorpio MC and Taurus IC, Taurus energy is in your fourth house of like home, and there's quite likely in your home it's very sensually pleasing. There's smells, there's food cooking, there's that, there's like a movement toward sensual um, integration of all these things
Mm-hmm.
that are pleasing. And that in your home, most likely, you know, you crave stability at home. Um, and when that experience also, you're coming from this like lineage of, there's this Taurian energy there, right? There's stability, there's a need for stability, deep want for it. And you're moving in this life, you're moving toward outward outwardly, like putting into the world this work that's deeply transformational for others, because you know, at home you're like nice and cozy and you're in that transformation, but in a way that's like almost in, I don't know, it's like it's a young version of it. So
Mm-hmm.
for you as a, for this person as a Scorpio MC, it's like outwardly facing transformation, and the work that you put into
Mm-hmm.
the world will be disruptive in a way that like changes people's minds, and is like, okay, this work is important. And
Yeah.
this person has a gift because they're like, they have the stamina and the capacity for that depth and to put it out in the world. There's like this energy of fearlessness.
Yeah. And I feel like this could look like psychologist, investigator, like things that deal with harder, even like social work, like things that deal with getting out the tumultuousness. And then
Mm.
I picture this person just having a home, like you said, like almost their version of like not like a cat like a castle, but just like this beautiful little sanctuary because what they do is so intense. So even if it just
Yes.
generally applies to you in that way, like what you do is so intense that your home is just like this space of like sanctuary where like you have all these earthy things around you to make you feel good, like that I find is very like that would be Scorpio,
Mm.
Taurus, MC, IC.
Mm. That's so funny. I'm just watching this show called Shrinking on Apple TV, and it's about three therapists that work in the same office. And one of them, he's like an older guy, but he does this therapy work out in the world, and his home he calls his fortress of solitude. And it's
Wow.
that's so
That
funny.
is
Like that's such a representation of that.
yeah. And I feel like okay, so another thing about all of this. Would you say, Kate, that the MC and the IC almost kind of represent like the sun and the moon? So things could also be interpreted in that light. Like, so say you have like say you have a Scorpio sun and a Taurus moon, right? Because it's like it's literally that what we're speaking about. Hence why I always say the moon really reminds me of Saturn because Saturn is like also dealing with the things that are deep and dark and like a little bit more heavy. But so say, yeah, it could also be interpreted in those ways because the MC is on the cusp of the house that rules Saturn, and the fourth house is the moon. So it's like just this general thing about like also look to those places, I guess is what all I'm saying is look to where your
Yeah.
sun, your moon, even Saturn are, because those could
Hmm.
indicate another way of how you come out into the world in that light.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. Because your sun is your identity. Saturn rules the 10th house, which is the MC, what we're talking about. And the moon is the fourth house. So we're basically as well talking about those. Um,
Yeah.
okay. So, all right. So Sag MC and Gemini IC. This one is like typical of like teacher, guru, um, professor energy. Sag
Mm.
MC is very much like, okay, I teach out in the world. I like give sermon. I give gifts of information. I,
I
I embody
expand
this.
your mindset.
Yeah. And I am like in my own world, at my home where I come from in my childhood, I'm like, this is the I see in Gemini. This is energy of I think intelligently about blank. I am moving with like swift, my thoughts are swift around this topic, and I'm like disciplined. And out in the world, I'm presenting this like this philosophy. I think of like course creation is very this energy. Sag
Mm.
is can be content creator, um, like a person who I'm thinking of the term gatekeeper, but that's like not a great term. But like a person who is like lighting the path, is holding a
Mm-hmm.
torch up and lighting the path. And this energy, like if you've got this in your chart, you can really tap into that energy of like torch holder and like maybe passing the torch along
Yeah.
to the next
And
generation. And the very much the teacher archetype, the teacher and philosopher, and like what's the word in the tarot? Not hermit, but the other one, the other guy.
oh, the magician. No.
No, it's like hermit, not hermit energy, but we'll think of it. But
Yeah.
anything you want to say about this one?
So yeah, like almost like discovery. Like I'm feeling as a Sagittarius midheaven person, I feel like discovery and like literally just that is like kind of a theme. Like in
Hmm.
some way, shape, or form. I don't know what exactly this looks like. I'm literally thinking of the movie National Treasure, and I'm thinking about that guy, and I'm like, okay, Sagittarius midheaven probably.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
treasure treasure hunting, but like something where like you have an important job to like change and here I see just like you kind of change you could change the landscape of what people believe
Yeah.
through your like studies. It's very like Einstein energy to me.
Uh-huh.
Like literally Einstein. I wonder what he had because I would literally be willing to bet had to do with Sagittarius and Gemini or something.
Hmm.
Or like Virgo Pisces. Just just
Yeah.
just putting it out there because I don't want to be I hate when
Yeah.
I'm wrong about things like that. But
Um,
yeah, just the
yeah.
Gemini thing. I feel like with Sagittarius and Gemini, it's definitely like, I feel like they play with each other even more, not more than anything else, but like, I just find that like Sagittarius wouldn't be Sagittarius without the work of Gemini, and Gemini wouldn't have the motivation of Gemini without Sagittarius's fire and desire to find the truth. And that's why they go
Hmm.
so well together. It's the air, it's the fire, it's the mental stimulation, it's the discovery.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
I'm also thinking when I think of Sag MC, I think of Heimdall, the guy, the gatekeeper guy from the Marvel movies, where he's like the gatekeeper of
Mm,
Asgard, and he like wears all gold and has these like two like this big helmet on, and he's like the the embodiment of like Sag MC energy. Is
yeah.
like he's the to get to the far reaching places you have to like go through him, and he's like the wisdom keeper, the fire keeper,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the
Yes.
energy.
Oh my
Fire keeper
God.
energy is very Sag MC.
And oh my God, what you just said. When you're young, this applies to all people. When you're young and you're finding out information about everything, how we talk about the process of the chart and how everything kind of goes through the chart in a weird way. When you're at that Gemini stage, Gemini could be interpreted as literally like how you even intake information and regurgitate it to your life and your world and everything else. It's like the communication of all life. So that is the thing. It's the very thing. It's your curiosity. It's the thing that you want to like play with and toy with. It's the twins. It's like you are communicating with something at all times. That's the twins. You and
Yeah.
whatever it is. And that is what gives a human wisdom at the end of their life. Sagittarius.
Hmm. Exactly.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
Because so
getting
we're
so
like,
deep.
no, we're good. We're heading towards the end of the zodiac, so we're getting to these like deep wisdom spaces of like,
The longer
um,
standing signs, yeah. The like the
okay,
older
yeah,
signs.
right. So okay, so now Capricorn MC, Capricorn MC, Cancer IC. So if you got Capricorn at the top of your chart, this is like I feel like this is very useful. It's very aligned because Capricorn rules the
Domicile,
tenth
yeah.
house. Yeah, it rules the 10th house. So like you've got a Capricorn MC, you're a fucking business person. You are an entrepreneur. You are a like I live like dare I
You are
say
a
it,
builder.
you are a business person. You're a builder. You're like a go-getter. And whether or not you actually have a business, you have that innate need and desire to build something, right? And at home, right, the root of your tree is Cancer. It's like this protective, nourishing mother energy. And if you've got Cancer there, like your childhood, your the way that you nourish yourself is through like feeling your emotions, feeling them deeply, moving through them. And that's it's just very moon. Like I would say look at your moon where your moon is in this chart, if you've got this. Yeah, and again, Capricorn rules the bones, and Cancer rules like the soft body, the soft fleshy part of the body, and how you like connect with and honor that like you are actually just like a flesh suit in your life, and then like out in the world, how you like put everything out there and organize outwardly is like that deep love for your soft pieces and parts. It can be like emotionally or physically or mentally. And then you present out in the world this, you're like building this beautiful structure that's organized, that's connected, that it like has the integration of all these pieces where you can build something new. Capricorn, I feel like, is always building something new because it's always going through the process of like understanding the depths of itself and
Mm-hmm.
creating something out in the world that can hold that structure that's like
For a
ever
long time.
changing for a long
Yeah.
time. And it's about time. It's building long standing structures, whether
And
it be a
yeah,
business, something else, or family.
I see this place, and and here's another thing that is just coming to mind as we like talk more. Every time we talk more about astrology, I'm just like, insight, insight. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, Cancer is ruled by the moon. Literally, you're talking about a planet, Saturn, that is takes 30 years to go around the zodiac, and the moon, which takes almost 2.5 days, or wait, no, 2.5 days in each sign? I don't remember. Very quick. Moon is very quick. So it's like okay, when you think about it that way, when your MC is ruled by this like long standing planet, and your IC, the way that you build the roots, is ruled by these like quicker, almost like like dependent upon mood. It will change in a couple days or a couple hours, like who knows. It's I also see like how money is understood here. So it's like I see this I feel like Capricorn MCs have this like innate ability to understand, like you said, business and money and how the world works in that way. And they have the beauty of understanding it because at home or like in their mental, they just like innately understand monetary value, and like they understand how the systems work and like exchange and things that have to do with like the quick moving aspects of life, and they know how to captivate it all in one and like literally make something that is like the strongest foundation ever, that just like
Mm-hmm.
can't even shift because it's just so foundational and so well thought out because it has all
Mm-hmm.
this variety in its mental capacity.
Yeah, I like that insight.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Okay, last two. So Aquarius MC, Leo IC. Um, Aquarius like knows stuff. Aquarius is like, it's the container that like holds the water. So it's fixed, but it's an air sign, but it's fixed. So it's like, it's this interesting energy of like, okay, everyone is so unique, and I'm holding the possibility of like all the different expressions that everybody can have because my IC, my root is Leo. It's so creative, it's bold, and there's this energy of like expressing myself at home or in my own like alone time, and mental health wise, like this fire heart energy of like
Mm-hmm.
connecting so deeply to your own heart space that you feel the need and the desire. You feel into that innate desire, if you have this in your chart, to hold and help humanity and serve humanity. It's not even help; it's serving humanity in such it's in such a big way that you're connecting to the evolution that we all are moving toward, in this like current time. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Leo IC, Aquarius MC people are connected in a way to like the evolution of our species. And that's part of their dharma in this life, is to serve humans, to serve our evolution as a species,
Mm-hmm.
our evolution as in toward more harmony and humanitarianism. And through heart medicine is the way. Like I really connect with that. Like that feels really,
Mm-hmm.
really potent. Um,
Yeah. I feel like they awaken. I like you said like they help humans and like evolution just like go on. But
mhm,
I also feel like they like expand creativity to a different level that nobody else could when they're on the MC. Like, I feel like
mhm,
whatever they do is driven by this creativity that is gonna be different than everyone else. It's gonna be kind of rebellious in its own light, but like wants to, like, literally is gonna move, like, push humanity. Like, I'm almost like, okay, David Bowie. Like,
mhm.
was he an Aquarius sun? I feel like
I'm
he
I'm looking at
something.
I'm looking at people that have it right now, but he's not
He's
on
gotta
here.
be he's gotta be something with Aquarius. But like that people
Yeah,
like
yeah,
who they just like they push humanity like how he did. He pushed human creativity to a different like level, which to me
yeah.
is very like Leo Aquarius like dichotomy. And I don't know. Something I just feel like the way that Aquarius shows up in the world is 100 and million 10% always gonna be driven by something that has to do with not the arts, but something that's a little bit more conceptual.
Mm,
Not so much
mhm,
like grounded in something real, like not Virgo energy, but like something that's a little bit more like different and almost new, like new. Could be totally new, but
no,
they just like make
yeah,
something completely different out of it and it changes humanity forever. It's like
yeah.
it's like the movies like Star Wars. Like I just see that as like Aquarius MC because it was like just
Oh,
driven by
totally.
this like new concept, heartfelt, creative drive, fire.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful access. I love that. Okay, last one. Pisces in Midheaven and Virgo IC. Um, cool. Pisces Midheaven. Oh my gosh. This one is just so expansive. So expansive.
Mm.
Like like the most expansive. Like your career is the source of like expanded consciousness for other
Mm-hmm.
people. So maybe you're like, maybe you have like a platform that houses a ton of like videos and information all about like the expansion of our consciousness, or it can be just a different topic, but it's in nature, it's like connected, and it's um, pretty evolutionary in its own sense. It's like deep rooted, but also like so connected to just all that is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that Virgo I see with this person, there's a sense of like preciseness in the information that you want to give in your life. And Pisces can be just like so caring. And this is, I feel like, is the sign or the MC of like an artist. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because there's, if
Yeah.
you have your if you have Virgo, Mercury ruled like on your fourth house, there's this sense of like communicating and using your words, your voice, um, from that deepest place of nourishment and like connecting to yourself and being able to like articulate the words that come from those deepest places within you, and then out in the world presenting it in such a unique and deep interpretation like that. It
Yeah.
feels like artist to me.
Yeah. I think so too. And like it feels like almost just the Virgo piece is like you feel actually more comfortable. I feel like Pisces MC people have this ability to feel more comfortable with their inner being to the world. Like they have just like this ability that a lot of people I feel like don't, of like expressing themselves from their deepest part of like of who they are, and they have a way of doing it where it feels like comfortable to do that to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God, I definitely feel that.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
like it
Yeah,
almost
I
feels
see that.
uncomfortable to not be that way. It feels uncomfortable for them to be that way in their inner world. It's almost like they naturally want to be outward, but like this crazy, like just crazy. I also see it very conceptual, very artistic, but yeah, like spiritual.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Organized but spiritual. So like the best
Yes.
of both worlds. It's
Yeah.
like manifestation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
cool. So we went through all of
Wow. Yeah.
them. That was like longer than I expected, but I think we definitely got some good insight there.
Yeah. And I feel
So
like this will really
cool.
help people who want to know more about MCIC.
Hmm.
Cool.
Cool. So we'll see you guys next time, and we'll have a wonderful topic that we can all chat about.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye. See you next time.